So today we will learn the advantages of DBMS in detail. Last time I had briefly told about each of this advantage. Now we will just try to understand it in detail. So the first advantage what we have seen is controlled redundancy. Last time I explained you about the term redundancy and how this redundancy or repetition of data causes uh, unnecessary wastage in storage space, effort, as well as time. So now let us look in detail about this particular disadvantage. What disadvantage does it cause? Yeah. So in traditional software development, which used file processing, every user group maintains its own files for handling data processing applications. So last time I explained you with an example of attendance sheet, which will be maintained with each faculty separately, and each faculty separately modifies the file, and that causes inconsistency. And because everybody is trying to do the same task at separate location, this is nothing but the redundancy, because repeatedly the same information is getting stored at multiple places. So this is called as redundancy, and how redundancy causes inconsistency. I had told you about this example. So here we are elaborating another example. In the university database, suppose there are two groups of users who are using the same university database. One is registration people and second is accounting office. So what happens is, in the old traditional approach, imagine you are storing this information in the form of a file. How, or file, or any kind of structures. For example, if you take the example of C programming structures, normally such kind of information is stored in the form of structures, isn't it? So suppose you made array of structures. You define the structure called a student, and then you define the required variables like roll number, name, then maybe date of birth, etc. Whatever information you wanted, you defined a structure, and then you created array of objects. Fine. And then you went on storing every student's details. But then in such storage, you can say technique, what is the problem? The structure what you have defined to store the details will be separately stored in every file. You can't define the storage structure at one location and both cannot access it. So that cannot happen in case of traditional file processing system. Even though if you consider Java, wherein the data can be stored in the form of a file, and then you may say that due to inheritance or something, using some or the other technique, you try to use the same data twice. But still, in case of modifications and all, there will be some conflict. So in case of traditional approach, the data is stored repeatedly by separate groups independently. And then what happens? Because the data is repeatedly stored at multiple places, this leads to several problems, such as, first, there is a need to perform single logical update, such as entering data on a new student at multiple location. If new student takes admission, both accounting people and this administration people will have to modify the data separately. So this leads to duplication of effort. Second, storage space is wasted when the same data is stored repeatedly. Third, whenever any update has to be made on the files, one person might update it separately and second person might update it separately. Or in case of updation of multiple locations, the updation cost may not be same. There, even if there is a slight change, still it will create inconsistency in the data. So this is the problem of controlled redundancy. Then you may, as I was telling you last time, you may think that, okay, the solution to this approach is you have a centralized storage and then everybody is trying to access from the same location. Fine. So this is the solution offered by the database approach. You may say that then it should remove in completely that you can say redundancy should be removed. Why it is said that control redundancy? So let me take you to another slide for this to make you understand. Actually, you're going to learn about this chapter, how this uh, redundancy causes problems, how it, you can say, violates the rules which are defined by the database management system. These rules and how these rules actually help you to bring consistency in data, that we are going to learn in the second last chapter later, because it is too theoretical and complex. You may not be able to understand right now, so we will take it at the end. But from that chapter only, I would like to explain you these kind of, you can say, problems which are faced because of redundancy. So here we have taken one typical table which stores employee data as well as their department data together. You know, when the data has to be stored in a table in the form of rows and columns, for example, imagine Excel sheet, then what you understand right now, I'm sure what you understand right now is just create the column headings and go on storing the details. Now, with your understanding, whatever you will do at present, you will do similar thing. If you are told to store the details such as employee name and their SSN number is something like your Aadhaar card number here, SSN here. That means social security number. So unique number given to each employee. Then there is a birth date, then there is address, then you have to store department number, then you have to store department name, and then department manager's SSN number. So all these information you are asked to store. Then what will you do? You will do the similar kind of structure. You will create a table with each of these column headings like employee name, SSN number, birth date, address, department number, then department name, and then manager SSN. So when you will create such, can you find any problem here? Which data is redundant? Like for example, there could be multiple employees working in the same department. Fine. So whenever there are, like here you can see there is a research department. Totally how many employees are working in research department?
4.
4. So when 4 employees are working in research department, 4 times I'm writing the same department name here. Research, 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 research. So this is nothing but redundancy in the data. Fine. Then every time I write that research department, every time I'll have to also write that manager's SSN number. So isn't it repeatedly, I mean, unnecessary repetition in the data storage? Fine. So because of this, what are the problems faced? The problems faced are, I mean, there are various problems faced, which are those that we will learn in detail later, but right now I'll just tell you the sample. Whenever, like for example, new employee joins, whenever new employee joins, until unless suppose, okay, yeah. Okay, when the new employee joins, sometimes it could be a situation. I'm just explaining your rare situation, but it could be. It could be a situation that employee has been just taken, but still you have not decided in which department you are going to put in. So here, when you'll write such employees details, you can write only up to address, but then department number, department name, and department manager, SSN number, that will remain blank. And it is said that in a database, okay, sometimes the blank values which are called as null values are allowed, but too many nulls are not recommended. So in this case, what will happen if many such employees are there who have recently joined, still the department has to be allocated, then there will be many nulls. So that is one problem. Second problem, if you are trying to update, suppose tomorrow you decide that research department should be, removed, and you want to update that department with some other name called as marketing department. I'm just telling you the situation. Then in that case, what you will have to do, if there are hundreds of employees working in the research department, you will have to make changes at all 100 places wherever you have written research, research, research. You have to go on updating that, isn't it? So this is how whenever the data is repeated, the updations become very, very difficult. You have to repeatedly go on doing at every location you have written that. Fine. Or suppose if you have to modify the manager of that particular department. So everywhere you will have to go on modifying the manager. Now, what could be the solution? Can anyone think of a solution here?
Central storage.
Yes?
Central storage.
Yeah, but it is central storage only. Everything is being stored at one place. Here, what problem I am telling you is, in case of database, it is not separately stored. This file is stored at central location only. But still in that central location also, there is a repetition of data. Here, I am talking about this DNAME and DMGRSSN, which is repeatedly getting stored for every employee working for research department. If there are 100 employees working for research department, 100 times I'm repeating the department name and department MGRSSN. So how do we avoid this redundancy? Can anyone give me a hint? Okay, at this point of time, you may not think about it. Okay, so let me tell you a solution. Students, you just see whether you understand what we are going to do later. Okay, in your practicals. This is the basic rule of database management system. How does database management system actually stores the data? Our database management system is called as RDBMS. What does R stand for?
Relational.
Relational. So here, what do we mean by relational database management system? So what actually we are going to do here? Now we have got a combined table called as employee and department. I have told you a database is a collection of related tables, isn't it? One database can contain multiple tables, I had told you. Fine. Now these multiple tables are related to each other. Like for example, in case of college management software, or here itself in case of company database, there could be many tables like employee table, and there could be a separate table called as department table. Then there could be a separate table called as project table. So what is the advantage of storing the details in separate tables which are related to each other? Okay, so I will give you a solution. You try to understand. Please concentrate very carefully. Okay, the solution offered is, instead of storing everything in one table, store it in multiple tables which are going to store data about one particular entity, like employees in employees one entity, then department is another entity. So each entity's data you're going to store separately. So separately means actually what we are going to do. Let me show you with the annotation. So you may do such thing. You may take one, you can say knife. अरे बोल. छान आहे माताजी. तुम्ही किती वाजलेत? म्हणजे माझा क्लास चालू आहे. तुम्ही किती वाजेपर्यंत आहेत जागे? एक अर्ध्या तासाने केलं चालेल की झोपणार? अगं बाई, मला तेच टायमिंगच कळत नाही. हो हो, मीच करते. घ्या, मीच करते. हो हो हो, चालेल. किती वाजता साधारण? हा, मी रासलीला विचारून करते. घ्या. हो हो, ठीक आहे. अरे बोल. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, where was I? I was trying to tell you something.
Create different tables for each group.
Yes. Okay. So what you will do is you will take one a scissor or knife and then you may cut the table like this. Okay. Left side part is related to which entity?
Employee.
Employee. And right side part is related to
Department.
department. Fine. When you create such two tables, then it is going to solve your problem. How it is going to solve your problem, I will tell you. It is going to solve the table, department table will look something like this. Okay, I'll create one small table and I'll show you. Okay, I'm just roughly going to create this table and I'm going to show you. Actually, how many departments you have in this particular table?
3.
Yeah, only 3 or 4, 4 there. So here it is going to be name. So I will just write it as NM. And the last column is about MGR. So I'll just write MGR. Okay. Now in this case, how the information will be stored? Department number 1. What is the department number 1 name?
Headquarters.
Headquarters. So you will write headquarters. So I'll write only HD. And then the MGR number, I will not write, but you understand. What is that? 88866 and 4 times 5. So I'll just write 88. Then which is the second department? Second is not there. Which is another department here?
Fourth
Administration.
administration.
Fourth is there. I will not write all now. I will just write the numbers. You understand that the table will be created like this. Then there is fifth one. Yes, 1, 4, 5. Done? Yes, 1, 4, 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Is my job done now? See, our table is reduced to only 3 to 4. Even if there are hundreds of employees, they all will belong to any of these 3 only. I can give a similar example, like in Gopte College also we have 3 levels, 3 types of graduations offered. One is BCom, then BCA and BBA. How many students are there? Thousands of students are there. But all those thousands of students will be categorized into only 3 streams. One is BBA and then BCA and then BCom, isn't it? So for every student, if you have to store BCA department and then BCA department's HOD name and then the maybe example I'm just giving you, or the phone number of BCA department. If there are around 2 to 300 students of BCA taking admission, then those many times, 300 times you will go on writing Venugopal sir's name and then maybe the phone number of Venugopal sir. So it will be a repetition. Instead of that, what you can do, you can create a table like this. 1, BCA, name of the department, and then managers, that is Venugopal sir's name, and then you can just write his phone number only once. Okay, and then BBS, 1 row for BBA, 1 row for BCom. So only in 3 rows your course details are done. Similarly, here only in 3 rows your department details are finished. But don't you think some information is getting lost here? What information we might lose if the entire table will be converted to one from the left side and right side table is only with 3 rows? Okay, can you just guess or try to understand which information we are losing here?
Names.
Name, because I have not written. If imagine if I would write the names of the department and I would also write the names of department MGRSSN. Okay, I have written department number, I have written department name, I have written department MGRSSN. But what information we are losing is, okay, let me only tell you. So DBMS tells you to store information of every entity in different tables. But then in that process, if you just divide it, you are losing the information of relations between these two tables. In the sense, actually in this table, we have a information about where each employee is working, like in which department every employee works. Or in other way, we also know that in research department who all work. If I ask you a question in research department, which all employees work, what will be your answer? Which all employees are working in research department?
Smith.
Wong, then there is Narayan, and then there is
English.
yeah, English Joy.
Joyce.
So these 4 people, how did you understand? You went here and you see how your brain has worked. It went to research department, research, and parallelly you searched for the employee name who are there in the same row, and then you fetch those employee names, isn't it? So this relationship, how to establish? In case of DBMS, what solution is given is there will be one employee table separately stored, then there will be department table separately stored. But in that process, what is done is in the employee table, okay, your department table stores the details of department number, department name, and department MGRSSN. But your employee table will store the information till here. How? It will store the information till here. Earlier I had marked it only till address, but now I have marked till department number. Okay. Now here you have a table. Wherein you have information like, I will not draw the columns now. There is department 1, whose name is headquarters and whose manager is 88. Then there is department 4, whose name is administration, whose manager is 98. Then there is department 5, whose name is research and manager is 33. Okay, assume that you don't have any of these information, like suppose this information is hidden. Okay, this information is completely hidden, it is not there. You have one from the left side, this table called as employee, and you have right side department table. And then this is how the tables are stored in your database management system, that is in your database. Now, can you tell me how many people are working in research department? Okay. Can you just tell me how many people are working in AD department? Am I audible?
Yes,
Three
ma'am.
people.
Yes, ma'am.
3 people. So how do your brain has fetched the information?
By connecting the two tables.
Ah, from which information you connected?
D number.
D number. Very good. So what you have done is, I asked you the question, how many people are there in AD department, that is administration department. So how your brain has worked, you tried to check what is the number of that administration department. So that number is 4. Then your brain carried that number 4 here to this table. And then you went on searching where all 4 is there. So where all you find 4, you have started counting 1, then second, and then 3. And this is how you got the number. Even if I would have asked you who are the employees that are working in your particular department number 4, that is administration department, you would have told these names as well. So this is how database management system actually tells you to store the data in separate table. Because of this arrangement, what advantage we have got? Can you understand now? Instead of repeating these department names for hundreds of employees, we have stored this department information only in a small table. If there are 5 departments totally, then there will be only 5 rows stored in this one table called as department table. And this is how we have avoided the repetition. We need not write that research for hundreds of employees who are working. Even though those hundreds of employees will work in research department, how will you understand their information? Only this department number is repeated. So you may think that anyway you have to repeat this department number at least, isn't it? Even if you have avoided the repetition of department name and department MGRSSN, but still there is a repetition of department number. So redundancy cannot be completely avoided, but it can be minimized. So this is how database management system, just with a small amount of repetition of data, it allows you to preserve the relationship between the multiple tables. And this is how it helps you to avoid the repetition of data, or you can say a large repetition of data. So this is how it helps you to minimize the redundancy. And that's why the advantage is controlled redundancy. I hope it is clear. Only if you have understood this example clearly, you will be able to understand what is database management system, or how practically the tables are stored in database management system. This is the heart of DBMS subject. To many students, DBMS becomes, you can say that, uh, difficult subject. That means they feel that, okay, this subject I never understood. But for those who get the key of this subject, or who understand the heart of this subject, for them it becomes very, very joyful and interesting. So I hope you have understood actually database management system, what it does. Instead of storing the information in single large table, in which there will be a repetition of data, DBMS tells you to store the details in separate, small separate tables. This helps you to avoid redundancy. But while storing the information in separate tables, DBMS also helps you to maintain the relationship by adding one of the column from other table into this. Like now this is employee table. In this, first column is employee name, second column is SSN, third column is birth date, fourth column is address, fifth column is department. Till address, all the columns were, or you can say all the details are related to only employee. And this department number, actually this field or this column belongs to department table. From department table, you have taken this field. So sometimes later on in future, you will understand when you learn future in the sense when you learn in some next 2-3 chapters, you will learn that such kind of field or the column which is taken from some other table into our table is called as a foreign key. Now, all these are our own keys, in the sense our own fields, like employee fields. For employee table, these are its own fields, like employee name is there, SSN is there, birth date is there, address is there. All this information like birth date is related to employee. Address is of the employee. But when it comes to department table, department number, department name, and department MGR SSN, all these are related. But what we are doing to maintain or to preserve the relationship between the two tables, here while storing the details of employee table, we have also taken department number field in our table as foreign key. So because of this arrangement of storage of the data, we can preserve the relationship between the data, and the information from multiple tables can be fetched easily. Like even if such arrangement is there, separate tables arrangement, I can easily answer to the queries like in which department your Wallace Jennifer is working. Can you tell me what is the name of the department in which Jennifer is working?
Administration.
Administration.
Actually, maybe this red part, what I have marked here, that is visible to you. But even if that wouldn't be visible, how you would have fetched the, even if this part wouldn't be visible to you, this part, how you would have fetched the information? You would have gone to department number 4, then you would have taken this department number 4 to department table, and from there you could have read the name of the department, isn't it? This is how your DBMS will store the details. Okay. So we could cover only small section today. Actually, I'm supposed to cover fast, but anyways, if you are able to understand, that is the main purpose. So we will stop here.